As we go into 2023, we'll take a look at the current roster of locomotives that I use on the B&L Warsaw Industrial. None of these will stay with the layout. They will eventually move on to other layouts as they go along. But 6 of these were added in 2023, as I showed in another video. Others were acquired beforehand. I'll start over here. Now, the first locomotive I got is not on this list. It's not here. It's not one I use because it's a Bachmann SD40-2 for New York, Susquehanna, and Western. And that is sitting down there underneath all of that stack of cars because it does not perform well. We'll start with this one. This is Canadian National 9626. This one is actually, I only have locomotives, mostly I only have locomotives that were in this area at one point, or that I have slated for other projects. This one was one I actually won. It's the only locomotive I've won so far. I was hoping to win another one this Christmas, but unfortunately that didn't work out, so oh well. But this is Canadian National 9626. This is an Atlas Gold Series with the Locosound version 5 decoder. That is a GB40-2 LW. It is the only GB40 series I have. I am going to be getting 2 more in February. That is, if they're still in stock in February. Hopefully they will be. They should be. This was one from Trackside Mike over on YouTube. This was December. This was a Christmas live stream of Sparky 107. December of 2022. I won this then, and it is stock, except for I did replace the front and rear couplers with KD double shelf couplers. Those were the ones Sparky sent me, and the Atlas ones just were not working. For some reason on that locomotive, in this locomotive, the Atlas ones were not working with my rolling stock. The others, they're working fine, and I haven't changed over from the Accumate couplers on any of my 3 other Atlas locomotives. Next, we have one of my favorite locomotives. This is Canadian Pacific SD40-2 5742 in the Expressway paint scheme. This paint scheme was designed for intermodal service in Canada. However, this locomotive, and I think it was 5745, was also painted in this scheme, were frequent visitors to the Southern Tier line, which I will be modeling in the future. So therefore, we have this this is a Bowser Executive Series with Locosound version 5 decoder. Stock from the factory. I have not done any weathering on it yet. I have a list downstairs of all the locomotives that came in the area, and I will look on Railroad Pictures archives and decide how I want to weather this thing. Some things will look more new than others. It depends on what I feel like doing to the locomotive. Some it's easier to weather for a different year than others. This one is this does not come in the area as far as I know of. This is Southern Pacific 7342. This was in the experimental scheme that Southern Pacific tried. This is the accurate one. There is a couple others out there that are not accurate, but this is the Athearn Ready to Roll series. You can see it has a split nose where it has gray on one side and red on the other. Not quite sure why they did that. The scarlet nose, that's indicative. That's normal for Southern Pacific. They have their gray on the top and bottom with yellow striped on the side. This is an Athearn Ready to Roll model. This is DCC ready. It does not have a decoder in it, so therefore it is only used when I hook up my DC power pack, which I'm not even sure where it is right now. Should be here somewhere. Oh, it's over there. So this one right now sits unless I hook up the DC power pack, which I haven't done since I did more work on the layout. Someday I might do that and use that in an operating session. And then we have our Norfolk and Western 926. Now this one is, I have no plan. I don't think there's any Norfolk and Western GP18s that I plan on modeling. This, however, is for those of you who know Western New York, know the Buffalo and Pittsburgh had number 926. They acquired it from the Norfolk and Western, and they painted over the NW here and the NW on the on the ends. And right now we have it facing, some might think it's facing backwards. It is not. It is facing forwards. Now, the Buffalo and Pittsburgh, they switched it to shorthood operation. So at some point I will be reprogramming it to operate shorthood forward, and then I will take off that F. I'm not sure if I will put an F on the front or not. I don't know. I have to look at pictures to see if they actually put the F on the front. The Buffalo and Pittsburgh did that, but I will not be taking off this lettering. I will just be instead be painting over it, so it might show through in some cases, which it did on the real one. Okay, if you looked closely on the real one, you would see the NW showing through. Let's look like it did on the 922, which is another one I have to get at some point. This is an Athearn Genesis model. This is actually my first Athearn Genesis model I ever bought. Then we have Southern Pacific 2696. Now, this one is not one that came around the area. Of course, Southern Pacific locomotives came around this area, but switchers, of course, not. But 2696 is a sister to a locomotive that this one actually ended up being scrapped by, I think it was National Rail Equipment in Silvis, Illinois. It was very heavily weathered when they did that. However, its sister, 96, I think, 96, not 2697, I think it was, ended up being Buffalo and Pittsburgh number 44. So I have two choices with this. I can either weather it up like crazy, like it was when it was an NRE, and patch it to be a Finger Lakes Northern locomotive, or I can completely strip it and repaint it in the Genesee, Wyoming, which I'm not sure I really want to do. That's a very complicated paint scheme. Granted, the paint scheme for the Finger Lakes Northern is complicated, but I think this would look great. Really weathered up, really beat it up, fade the paint a lot, and it's something you couldn't really mess up because it would look like junk anyway. Should look like junk anyway, and have this be the steel mill switcher, because the steel mill on the Finger Lakes Northern would have its own dedicated switchers, and I think it would be appropriate to have a ratty gray former Southern Pacific locomotive doing switching in a steel mill. Gray paint, really ratty, really weathered. Now we have this is an Atlas Silver Series with DCC installed. This was done by Alex Brockway. This is a former locomotive of his, Alex Brockway, FGLK. He's on YouTube. He hasn't posted any content anymore, but he's still out there. Next we have Conrail 6040. This is an SD35. Again, not something that I would normally model because these things were done in the 80s, were retired in the 80s. However, this is going to be a Finger Lakes Northern locomotive, and I believe I'm going to completely strip this and repaint it. The number that this is does not match the details. They have the horn placed here, and on these units, these are former Central Railroad New Jersey units, so that the horn should be here on the angled part of the roof. And Atlas did not do that. Unfortunately, Atlas is not the best when it comes to exact details. Like they can get the step so it folds like that, but they can't get a horn placement right. And that's kind of annoying. No ditch lights. I don't think these locomotives ever had ditch lights because ditch lights did not become mandatory until the 80s, and I think these were retired just before then. SD35, not a very known for its reliability, but it's a perfect locomotive for a regional railroad to acquire from a class 1 to get their own power. Next we have that is an Atlas Gold Series with the Loxon version 5, a decoder with sound. Next we have Delaware and Hudson number 374. This was, I think, the second locomotive I bought this year. I might have gotten it at the same time as the 5742 down there. This is a GP39-2, painted in the Guilford Transport Incorporated. I think that's the name of it, GTI, or Guilford Rail Services, which took over the Delaware and Hudson. They also operated the Boston and Maine Central. They're the precursor to Pan Am. And these locomotives, these were frequent on the Southern Tier line in the 80s and 90s, and the Finger Lakes Northern being run in the 80s, and the Southern Tier line being in 92 to 2009. These locomotives will be featured on both layouts. This one is actually going to be pretty much stay the same as it is. The real locomotive, the letterings, the paint started wearing off underneath the numbers here, and you could see the old number underneath it, which I do not want to try and do that. I think to try and replicate that, I would have to get a locomotive in the way it was before and paint it to this paint and kind of wear the paint off, which I do not want to do. So this one is going to be modeled pretty much probably straight right out of the paint booth, stay the same as it is. No, yeah, next this is an Athearn Genesis model. It's my one of two Athearn Genesis models I have. There will be more acquired in 2024. Next, we have New York Susquehanna Western 4024. This was the second locomotive I purchased. Of course, modeling 80s, modeling interchange with the D&H. In the 80s, you got to have New York Susquehanna Western Power because New York Susquehanna Western took over the D&H for a time after Norfolk and Western had it. So you would see these it is thoroughly plausible to see these two locomotives in a consist together. This is one of the locomotives that they added. They bought 4 initially, and then they added more once they were running intermodal trains in cooperation with the D&H and the Norfolk Southern during the Conrail era. And this is the B40-8, as they called it, or actual term for this is -8-40B. This is an Atlas Gold Series with Luxon version 5 decoder. I prefer the Luxon over the Tsunami 2, simply because Tsunami 2, as soon as you apply power to the track, it starts up immediately. You have to mute it, and the shutdown sequence is hidden. You have to. It's a higher function. It's when you're in idle, you have to power. You have to notch down the locomotive when it's in idle. So while the Atlas ones, you start up sequence and you shut down sequence with F8. Sometimes it doesn't want to do the shutdown sequence in F8. Sometimes it does. But this was my second locomotive I acquired. This ran in the layout for a long time. It will see action periodically. It will see more action once the bigger layout is started because we'll need more locomotives then. This layout right now only needs one locomotive at a time. Next we have Baltimore, Ohio, 6955. This is a GP30. This is a lifelike Proto 2000, and of course, with the problem with those locomotives, this locomotive has the same issue. The previous owner, the gears broke on him, and he just took them out. I have to take this locomotive apart, see exactly what he took apart, so I know if I just need the gears or if I need more parts besides that. But this will eventually be restored to a powered unit. Right now it is a DC, it is a sound dummy. The wheel's free spin, but it does have sound. It has a QSI 2001 decoder in it. Pretty good sound. Not as many functions as other decoders, or at least if there are, I don't know their the function mapping. So, but it's a decent locomotive. Unfortunately, because it's B&O, it doesn't run in this layout very much because it's a dummy. So it just is an extra car length on a train. Next, we have New York Susquehanna Western 3010. This is an SD40T-2, the Athearn Ready to Roll model. You can see the one handrail is off it. It is back there. Unfortunately, a problem with all Athearns except this 7342 I have gotten, as the handrails have been loose or falling off right out of the box. And this one is no exception. I'm not going to poke at it, but this one, the handrail is actually broken, and it is very carefully put back on there. You can just barely see if the light will light up. You can see how it's coming apart from the walkway there. If I I'm not very careful when I touch it, that will fall right off because it's broken. You can see that. You can actually see the break right there. It's broken right after the first stanchion. This is also a DCC ready locomotive. I got to put a decoder in it. I might this one in the 7342 I might ship off to Jason the train freak down in Arkansas, because he does decoder installs, and I won a 50% off decoder install, and I think 100% decoder 100% off decoder install, or is it another 50%? I don't remember. I have it written down somewhere. But and that would be since I have more money now, I can afford to ship them down. I was going to take this one. I was going to take the Bachman down to him and see if we could get that one more reliable. But I might have Jason do these, upgrade them to Tsunami 2s, because the decoders that they would take are the Economy, I think. And it'd be nice to have Tsunami 2 in there. And that's something that he could do that I'm not comfortable doing, because I just put the 8-pin decoder in it that's supposed to have. He knows how to upgrade those things. So this might go off to Arkansas. And so might that one. But right now they're DC only. If I put the power pack on, they can run. Unfortunately, this one right now, the coupler is loose because I've tried to get the screw back in there, and it just will not stay in there. I have to fiddle with that more. But that's it for the current Locomotive roster for going into 2023. I thought I had 8 locomotives. I have 10. Well, I have 8 that work on DCC, and 7 that are sound, and then the 2 DC locomotives that have to be upgraded. But yeah, his plan right now is to add 27 locomotives in 2024. I already have those all set out. There's actually 28 locomotives on my Yankee Dabbler wish list right now. I don't know what I'm going to get first. Well, actually, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get first. I'm not sure what I'm going to get after that. I have all the road names and numbers in a box, in a plastic container, and pieces of paper, and I'll just draw them out each month as I decide what to get them, and I'll get other things along with them, and get one a month, and we'll go from there. Well, more than one a month. Depends on how much money I have in my card at the time. So we'll see on next mail call. Should be two GP40s added to this roster, both DCC and sound. Now we'll go downstairs and I'll show you how I pick out locomotives I'm going to, or what locomotives I need for the layout. Okay, and I went over this a couple of years ago or more, but this is how I choose what locomotives I buy. I'm not quite sure why that's there. It's an odd place for that. But this is my list of all the locomotives that have been in the area. Here, the Conrail roster right here. You have the C40-8W in the quality, number 745. That would have been a former LMX unit, or LMSX unit. SD40, number 801, which is leased to the Canadian Pacific. GP or leased from the Canadian Pacific, one of those two. I think it was leased to the Canadian Pacific. We have 2 GP15-1, 1645 and 1689. Here we have the road name, the type of locomotive, the road number, the paint scheme. This one I have not filled in the paint scheme. I got to look up photos on Railroad Pictures Archives and find out what paint scheme it was in. Whether I have it or not, which you can see all these are no's. What year I found pictures of it in the area, which is 1992 in the Southern Tier. 1689 of 1984. I'm not sure what line it was on. This is all blank. I'm not quite sure why these are blank. Why I didn't put them in here. This is my Class 1 locomotives. This is all the Class 1 locomotives I can get. I can see up here FXE SD40-2 1439 in a blue paint scheme, which was on the Southern Tier line in 2008. We have a whole bunch of B23-7s, 1901, 1910, 1915. Quite a few B23-7s and mostly in the can opener scheme, but there's some here in the quality scheme. You have a couple of C430s, 1980, one in the can opener paint scheme and one in a Penn Central patch. A GP20, number 2103, in 1984. Remodeled 1984 appearance. Some GP30s. We have 2192, 2212, 2290, 2192, 2220, 2220, 2236, 2283 in the can opener scheme, and then 2212 in the Penn Central patch. GP35, 2255, you can see is the OLS, which is Operation Lifesaver, which was on the Southern Tier in 1997. You have some U25Bs. Mostly these are patch units. We have one in the can opener scheme, 2503, which is in 1980, but then Penn Central patch for 2506 and 08, along with 2530 and 42, and New York Central patch for the 2522 and 2525. I believe these were actually, I saw pictures of them on the deadline in Selkirk Yard, which is why they're 1980 and 1981. These were retired around that time. Two SD70s in the Conrail quality scheme. SD70s in Conrail, that did not last too long because they were delivered right before the Norfolk Southern CSX merger. But we got a couple of those in there. More U25Bs and one in the Penn Central patch and another in the can opener. And you got some U23Bs, more B23-7s. U30B, a couple U33Bs. Then we got a whole bunch of GP40s, GP40-2s, GP35s, the SD80 Max. You can see 4102, 3, 4, 5, 10, 13, 21, 25, 26, 27, and 28. A good share of the SD80 Max will be modeled along with 4 SD70 Max. B36-7s, now there's some of these on my wish list that I will hopefully be getting this year. The Conrail FL9, 5042, more B36-7s. C425, those were in service before the B40-8s, which you can also see here. Single RS27 in the Penn Central patch. I got some GP8s, and then we got SD60Ms, SD60Is, 4 GP7s, and a bunch of C39-8s, C40-8, C40-8Ws. There's a couple SD45s in one in the EL patch and one in can opener. Another SD45 in can opener. Some more SD45s mixed in with the C40-8Ws along with some SD40s. More SD40s, SD40-2s, C30-7As, C30-7s, C32-8s, C36-7s, SD4 and SD45-2. 2 SDP45s. Now I believe these were rebuilt into Southern Pacific SD40M-2s. We got some SD50s, a couple C630s. And two in the Reading patch and one in the Penn Central patch. Those would be real interesting to see. I believe these were also photographed on a deadline in Selkirk, I believe. But extend their life a little bit, give a little bit interesting look to the layouts. C630 can opener in 1982. That probably was actually operational when I saw that photo. U25C in Penn Central patch. U28C, I think those are a couple of the only U28Cs, and I think those are the only of those types of locomotives I have to be modeled. Single SD9 and 5 SD38s, and the SD38s in Conrail were in hump service and Frontier. We'll extend their service out a little ways if I can get a model of them. Have them go interchange into Finger Lakes Northern. SD40-2Rs, GP9, a GP18. I have one GP18 in Conrail. GP10 high nose. HN designates high nose. I put that in there so I know it's a high nose unit. Single GP38AC, a bunch of GP38s, GP38-2s, and some switchers, along with 4 RS3Ms. We have this one, 99-16, is going to be leased to Finger Lakes Northern. We have our BNSF and Santa Fe and Burlington Northern roster. We have GP60M, a GP60B, some B40-8Ws, C44-9Ws, those that use that designation for the Santa Fe units, along with C40-8Ws, and then the BNSF, I switch it to the D9-44CW. Same locomotive. It looks neater than saying -9-44CW, which is what it should be in the list. GP30Us, GP39Es, BNSF roster gives a lot of variety. You got the GP40X, you got a GP50 here, a B30-7AB, a couple GP30Us, a GP35U, a GP39E, another GP35U, and another GP30U. -9s, a couple of few C30-7s, some AC4400s, ES44ACs, an SD45-2, and the Kodachrome. That's one I really am looking forward to modeling because that'll really bring some interest to the layout, some interesting looks. And we have all the different Burlington BNSF paint schemes. They're listed H1, H2, and H3, which is Heritage 1, Heritage 2, and Heritage 3. You can see some, a lot of the SD40-2s in Heritage. You got some Cascade, BN patch, ATSF patch, and such. Union Pacific, we have it labeled here red sill or yellow sill. Because D&H locomotives are yellow stripe, it's easier to just put YS here. I know what it means, instead of trying to type out red sill or yellow sill, because it wants to put it as yellow stripe, or it wants to put it as something else. SD70M-T1. So this is the CSX classification for these, or maybe they called them SD70M-heavy H's. I don't remember. Warner Railroad referred to these locomotives as SD70M-T1s. These are the flared radiator SD70Ms. So I have it labeled there as SD70M-T1, so I know that they're flared radiators. Yeah, AC4400 CWs. You got some CNW units. Bunch of them here. 3 SD40-2s here, and then we got a bunch more SD40-2s and a couple SD50s. Some SD40Rs, some SD45Rs, the GP40-2, B30-7s, B36-7, B40-8s, CNW SD60. Really a lot of variety here. Some Dash 9s in CNW, an AC4400 CW. More SSW units, GP60s, a lot of SSW GP60s. Some SD45T-2s. KCS power, again, Canadian Pacific, which includes Sioux Line power. I'll scroll down here past all these SD40-2s, the SD60s, GP38-2s, GP9Us, AC4400 CWs, ES44ACs, and the SD40-2Fs. I think every single one of these is in this list. I think every single one of them came through here at some point, except 9020. 9020 is the only one that I did not find a picture of it in here. You even got an SD9043 Mac in here. It's going to be a lot of variety, and there is quite a bit of variety in the locomotives I have selected to be purchased this year eventually. CN power, a lot of CN different power. Of course, not all of these locomotives we modeled. This is every single locomotive that came through the area, and I'll model what I can find available. NS Power, which includes Norfolk and Western, Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, and Southern Power. A lot of power here. We'll look up D&H. Come on. Okay, well, let's do this easier. MEC. There we go. This is the power for the D&H. You got Boston and Maine, Bangor and Aroostook. Springfield Terminal locomotives. Maine Central. MEC yellow in the GTI, B&M paint, yellow nose, which is the blue with the yellow nose, and they got blue with yellow stripe locomotives. A lot of different schemes there, and we have one locomotive in that, which we have here, right here. GP39-2 number 374 is a yes. It's one of the locomotives I have purchased. It was used 1984 to 1990 that I could find pictures of. It'll be I think it is going to be modeled in 1984, right fresh out of the paint shop. Because I think in 1985, the paint had started to wear off, and it didn't look as good as it should have. Now, how I will be choosing out of the locomotives on my wish list, I have this little box with these papers in it. And what I will do is I just shake it up. And after I buy the first 2 locomotives, I'll just shake it up, and then it's time to buy the next one, and see what it comes up with, which we have Conrail 5549. That's an SD60M, I believe, which is on my Yankee Dabbler wish list. It's an Athearn Genesis 2.0 model, I believe. So that's not going to be the next locomotive I buy, but that's just an example of what it will be, unless that comes up when I do it again. And so that's it for this video. That's roster of 2023, how I pick out what locomotives to model. I have another file for leaser locomotives, which you have the BDLX, CEFX, CITX, CREX, CRLX, EMDX, FURX, GATX, GCFX, HATX, HLCX, JFDX, LLPX, LMSX, LTEX, NREX, NRL, PLMX, PNCX, RHSX, and VLIX. There are more. There's FAIX, which was some locomotives leased to the New York Susquehanna and Western and such. And they lay out Class 2 and 3 locomotives, which is the New York Susquehanna and Western Power, South Buffalo Power, Buffalo Southern. Down here we have the Bath and Hammondsport, Livonia and Lakeville, Ontario Central, Western New York, Pennsylvania, Rochester and Southern, and the Buffalo and Pittsburgh, along with the Tioga Central and Owego and Hartford. That power, which this is not complete. I still have to get some lists out of other areas, but yeah. That's it for this video from CP Source Springs, Mount Post 368. That'll focus on the Southern Line. Keep on loving trains. Tim out.